Wouldn't it be great if the most successful startups of the world documented their journey from 0 to 1 million in ARR? So you could see the actual tactics they used, how they executed them, what channels did they prioritize versus the ones they deprioritize. Also, how did they hire people and what phases? What did they do to be able to compete with big players if they had limited and scarce budgets and resources? This is precisely what I want to talk about in this video and show you some of these tactics. And here's my G14 classification that allows me to give advice on this subject. I served as lemlist head of growth for 4 years, and I had the luck of being the first employee to join this team when they were super early stage. Together, we went literally from 0 to 13.5. I joined, I think, where the company was around 12K in terms of revenue, and we managed to grow substantially in the 4 years. Hit 1 million ARR in our second year without raising any money, so we did it in a bootstrapped way. The other example I can give you is the startup called HeyReach. They are a client of mine, and they managed to go from 0 to 1 in less than a year. I started working with them when they were doing around 15K MRR. And in general, I was in startups literally my entire life. I worked at Shift, which was the first startup for me ever. We managed to cross 2 million in ARR together. I operated as a VP of marketing at Big Interview. Before I left the company, was doing a little bit over 3 million in ARR. And nowadays, like I said, I'm running my own agency called Robust Media, and I'm doing as a solopreneur, as they would like to say, I managed to get to 6-digit sales in under 1 year. And so this is why I think I've went through this journey a couple of times now, and I feel you can trust some of the advice, some of the tactics you can use, how to execute them, as well as some of the things you should be mindful of, deprioritize maybe in this phase, and some mistakes you can avoid. So the plan for today and how I structured this video is, first we're going to talk about 3 basics to fuel your growth. So before you launch any growth campaign, there are 3 things, in my opinion, that needs to happen that will make your life so much easier and your growth so much better. Then we're going to talk about the launch phase, where we're specifically going to break a few tactics that have worked really well for me in the past, and some others I've seen work tremendously well, that will help you launch the product. And then finally, we're going to speak about, in the same actionable manner, about some tactics that will help you go from this launch phase and first users to the milestone of 1 million in ARR. And so, number one thing, the ABCs of growth, the ABCs of growth, the 3 steps. Number 1, identify your differentiation, essential. Number 2, turn those differentiators into a good market positioning and language. And then finally, set up your growth funnel. And so if we're speaking about differentiation, the only path to competitive advantage is to truly understand and then highlight specific pain points that specific audience is suffering from. I think it's, one of the crucial elements of successful companies. Sometimes it's the feature, sometimes it's the speed, sometimes it's the simplicity. There's plenty of different differentiations that users are kind of looking for in every single industry. And so know the pain, feel the pain, remove the pain, and don't forget your competitors. How are your differentiators ranking against them? What's their advantage? What's your disadvantage? What's your advantage? And what's their disadvantage? And so if you think about it, how are you different? I see it like something I learned from the NFX Guild when I was, I was a part of their lecture in Palo Alto. In my early days, they had this beautiful graph that I always kept in the back of my mind, which is on the left side, the left extreme in this situation is a copycat company. So, you build the same product, you arrived second at best, but probably third, fourth, or 44th. Not a lot of people like you, and the main reason why people might consider you is usually the pricing. You're lower priced, and that's how you kind of attract users, but the product is exactly the same. But on the right side of the spectrum is another extreme, which is an innovator. So you're kind of ahead of your time. People respect you for sure. You have something that nobody else has, but customers won't necessarily follow you because they might just not understand yet how this is beneficial for them. And so all the risks of this journey are on you. The ideal position where you want to be is in the middle. It's where you take the best out of both worlds. What this means, then you become a game changer. And this is you make a few desired changes without changing the core principle. So the product does the same thing, but there's one or two features that nobody from your competitors have that customers also are excited about. And then this becomes your competitive advantage. And to give you a few examples, like back in the lemlist days, the number one differentiator that we had in the early days were personalized images. Like you could effectively take an image and personalize it automatically for endless amount of prospects with a click of a button. And so every single prospect would receive a unique image. And so this is something that nobody else has, and people were really excited about it. And then when we added a second differentiator, which was Lamwarm, and so these are the two differentiators that in the early days nobody had. And after people started replicating those, which is always the case, but those were the two things, like two specific changes that we made while keeping the core product and the core value proposition the same. And like one of my clients, which is HeyReach, that's like LinkedIn outreach tool, the way they kind of position their differentiators is like you can scale LinkedIn outreach like never before, because they kind of combined really, really cool features about them. They also modified the pricing model to suit their ideal customers. And so they don't have to burn money to pay for seats, like for example lead gen agency, because they have a pricing model that's really beautiful. It's like a nice combination of features plus the pricing model that really plays the music that lead gen agencies and sales teams like to hear. But then you have like companies like Webflow, one of the first no-code website builders, and me being somebody who has used plenty of tools in the past, building websites, the simplicity of Webflow and the coolness of it was phenomenal. And it spoke the language that I wanted to hear. Like, I don't need no dev. I don't need no code knowledge. I can launch a beautiful website without any of that. On another spectrum, you have a design agency like DesignJoy that has this phenomenal design as a subscription model that I kind of adopted to my marketing agency as well. And so they eliminated a lot of the risks that clients chasing designers have with this beautiful pricing model. You can check it on a website. And they also modified the relationship between the client and the design agency with their one task at a time policy. And so these are different types of product and service differentiators that you can get inspiration from, because ultimately you gotta have something that's a little bit different if you want to truly have like exponential growth or really sustainable growth. And then you take those, which is like step number 2, you take those differentiators and you work on your positioning. In general, positioning is how you establish your identity and how customers perceive you. And depending on the technicality of your product or the complexity of your service, sometimes, sure, personalized images it's scare or Lamwarm, but I can't really sell this as boost your email vulnerability, because not a lot of people might know what's email vulnerability. And so with positioning, I gotta be smart. How am I gonna communicate? What's gonna be my language? How relatable and cool I'm gonna make it sound when I'm talking about these features, so I can attract the highest number of people to the product. And so, for instance, this is like in Lemlist situation, the core positioning before we started speaking even about features, which is a lot of our competitors like Mailshake, Reply, Woodpecker back in the day. This was years ago. Their positioning was automate emails and follow-ups, scale email outreach, reach thousands of prospects really, really fast. And then after this, in their hero section, all the features were kind of this, like you import the list, you send it, it goes, it flies, it's fast, etc., etc. But we kind of chose for our positioning to be, send less emails, but get more replies. It's not about how many emails you send, it's about how many replies and qualified leads you get. And to be able to do that, you got to personalize emails to get more replies. And then once we've set the tone, and once we kind of try to create a movement, which is personalization, one-on-one communication, really deep and relatable human touch, then we can speak about personalized images, we can speak about spam, we can speak about this and that. And so this is how you kind of turn those differentiators into really good and relatable positioning and the language, how you speak about your product or service. And then finally, how does your funnel look like? Which is something that's really basic, so I'm going to fly through it really fast. Usually in the B2B SaaS world, where I spend most of my career, you create an account, you use the product, you win with the product, and then you buy it. Usually goes through a free trial. But there are certain aspects when, you got to dig a little bit deeper when you're considering this funnel. Like between creating an account and using the product, I need frictionless access to be able for the customer to just, create their account and understand what's the next step. And depending on the technicality of your product, sometimes you have complex stuff, like you got to connect your email, connect your LinkedIn account, you got to do this and that. And so trying to remove friction is one of the key priorities. And how do you do that? Especially in the early days, because you don't have to make it beautiful. You just got to make it simple and frictionless. Then guiding users to experience the wow moment. Like it's the wow moment, for lemlist was personalized images. The wow moment for HeyReach is, scaling my LinkedIn outreach as an agency. What was the wow moment for Webflow is creating my, website really, really fast and learning the basics rather than some super advanced features at the beginning. And so you got to figure out ways to let your customers win with the product, and then have this moment of, I like this. I, got results for this. I got some replies for my personalized images. Let me buy the product. And then it's just like all about smooth conversion flow from that point on. And of course, like measuring these things. Measuring these things is really, really important. You don't need like endless amount of graphs. You just need specific stuff, like how many prospects have created a free trial account or a freemium account? How many of these are qualified? Like, sometimes just because somebody creates a free trial account, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the ideal client, especially if you're like doing a demo and you have demo-backed sales cycle. You don't want to do demos with leads that are not qualified. Then how many users have activated the critical feature, and how many users ultimately bought it and experienced, got some ROI from that feature, and then ultimately bought the product. And boom, done. We finished with the first chapter, which is 3 basics to fuel your growth. Now we can go to, the most interesting thing, and which is execution, which starts with the launch phase. Like, how do we launch the product, and how do we bring the first users in? And let's, talk some tactics. And so speaking about launching in general, I feel what I've executed so far in my experience, what I've seen some of, my fellow colleagues do, is, these 3 combinations of these 3 channels are what brings users, number 1, that then 2, it saves costs and time, so it delivers results relatively fast without spending loads and loads and loads of money. Mostly executed campaigns for companies that were bootstrapped. And it's like something like of a preferred choice for B2B SaaS. And it starts with outreach strategies. We're going to speak about 4 of them, like friend of a friend, networking, and cold. This is some like how I label outreach campaigns in my mind. Then we have launching ecosystems like Product Hunt, AppSumo, communities, Reddit, and there's probably thousands depending on the industry you work in, and placements, like both free and paid. And we'll speak about that in a second. And so let's start with outreach. I think one of the easiest things that you can do is you go to the platform where you have most connections. For most of us, it's LinkedIn, but you can think about like Instagram, you can think about Facebook. It doesn't really matter. You can think about phone numbers. It's just like somewhere where you have a lot of connections. You can go like, hey, John, hey, Sarah, how's company X going? I saw you're pushing hard, and I know it's a very competitive industry. And so this can be based on their LinkedIn posts, for example. And then they might respond, hey, it's going well. We managed to cross 100K MRR. Wasn't always easy, but we made it as far. Great, boom. And then you can be like, hey, that's amazing. What you did with the influencer marketing move was brilliant. And so if I'm sending a social media tool that helps with influencer marketing, this is the way I can, move the conversation towards the business accept. And they can say like, thanks, appreciate it. And they can reply and give you some details how they executed, et cetera, et cetera. And then your transition sentence is, but how did you find influencer XYZ? Curious about your process. And then they'll speak about and they'll answer, because they're the highest reply rate is from your friends. It goes without saying. And so they will give you some insights. And if your product or service can solve some of the challenges or pain points that they experience in this process, this is where you can pitch in your product. Alex Hormozi had a great video on this, by the way. So if you're thinking like, okay, these are my friends, I don't want to have aggressive call to actions with them, you can always like mix and match different approaches. And so what Hormozi was preaching is like, do you know anyone? You can ask your friend, like, do you know anyone who's looking for an influencer marketing tool? You can be like, go direct, and would you be up to test an influencer marketing tool that removes the specific pain you mentioned for free? Like, there's no risk. All I want from you is feedback and a review. Like, no risk. And I faced a similar challenge recently. You can, leverage your credibility. I tried to bring these influencers. It was a little bit of a pain, and then I did this that removed this completely. Do you want me to show this to you? And here's like a quick Loom video for you to check it out and things like that. And then you have like a friend of a friend outreach. This is an example from my days at Big Interview. I was doing some research preparing to launch a tool, and I use, obviously, like LinkedIn is my go-to platform, and I use some connections in this case, so I can, get in touch with the HR people who are working in talent acquisition. And so you can see how the conversation went from left to right. And I booked a meeting, and I had like, I think, around 50 calls with our ideal customers. And then you have like networking outreach, which works great for people you kind of know through social, but you might also not even know them. And this is an example how one guy did this to me recently, which is, you open your connections on LinkedIn and you qualify them. You can also go for people who are not your connections and qualify them at the same time. And then you reach out. And this was the template. Hey, like, book a long time, blah, blah, blah. They've seen some of the things that I've done recently. And then, let's book a call, to catch up, exchange some tactics. We're both in growth, blah, blah, blah. Again, there's like plenty of ways you can kind of maneuver around this. And then let's say that the networking call lasts for 45 minutes. And so for like 40 minutes or 30 minutes, you can speak about, different things about growth. We can exchange our experience, what worked well, what didn't work, etc., etc. And then you can have one golden question for the last 10 to 15 minutes of your call, which this guy also did. He did really nice research. He understood what I was doing for a client. He read their case study. And then he asked me a specific question about that. And when I answered, that qualified me for him to ask me about something that he's been doing with the product and show me, which, bottom line, we know it's sales, but it doesn't feel like it because it's tailored to our conversation and everything. And so 80% or 90% of the call is you guys talking about the thing you do and the thing you love. And then, 10% or 20% of the conversation is, transitioning to what you wanted to ask them. And then finally, you have the cold stuff. I took some templates from my past, like I'll show you two examples. But this is one of my best performing lemlist templates that had thousands of variations when I was doing a little bit of outreach there. And you can see how it works and how it's broken down. And this is an example from Big Interview. Like, for instance, Big Interview sells to a lot of universities in general. And to cut the long story short, they gave me like a list of universities that they didn't get replies from. Like, I use like a hybrid version of marketing and sales, speaking about pain points, making me sound relatable and credible. And the point of my email was just to open a conversation. I didn't necessarily go to book a demo right from the first reply. I just wanted to talk about things. And my content also, the content I would send them, positioned a little bit of Big Interview and brought them hopefully value. And a couple of people replied. Half of these replies were interesting in a way that we exchanged a few emails. And one of the universities that the sales team was able to convert based on this email was Harvard. And then we moved to platforms, the launching platforms like Product Hunt and AppSumo. Product Hunt changed a lot over the years, but I still feel it's a very, very, very vibrant community that brings a little bit of value. If I give you like a lemlist case, there were 4 launches so far. And in the lemlist 2.0 and 3.0 versions, it's the one where I participated as an operator. And to be able to succeed with Product Hunt, there are a couple of things that you gotta have in mind, which is you gotta have a really good offer. So, use lemlist and have a 10% off. It's not a good offer. It needs to be better than that. Then you gotta optimize your profile, have a killer profile, have a killer copy, which goes back to the differentiators and positioning and everything. You want to really highlight these things using the language of your customer. So you're tired of low replies and emails going to spam. There are exactly 3 things that you can do. Number 1, number 2, number 3. And my offer can be, you can do this for free, no restrictions, see how it works for a month. For example, the crucial part of Product Hunt is launching at the time, I think it was USPT when the officially starts, so you can maximize the 24 hours. Every second counts, and build your audience. So this means preparing your templates, preparing your messages, preparing who you're going to send this to, warming up your audience before you launch on Product Hunt. Like, you got to do all these things, so when the launch day comes, you're not creating everything. You're just focusing on promotion. But those are, I feel, the essential things to do. And then you also have AppSumo, where you're kind of selling lifetime deal. And you have AppSumo as an organization that does marketing for you. Obviously, they take a bigger cut of the revenue, but you're not doing any marketing at all. And you can tap into their audience. The beautiful thing about AppSumo and Product Hunt is, like, you're not building your distribution channel. You're kind of renting what AppSumo and Product Hunt already did. And in the link in the description below this video, you will find how, this is Nicola, founder of HeyReach, how he managed to do AppSumo in a fantastic and very, very creative way, negotiating some really good things and making a successful campaign. I never executed AppSumo campaign myself. I joined lemlist after they finished one, and I also had HeyReach as a client who finished AppSumo before I started working with them. So I won't give you any tactical details, but in the link below, you'll find everything you need. And then you have communities. But this is something that's just beautiful, but it has a flip side to this coin. And the flip side to this coin is you can't go aggressive and selling in obvious ways. And I took this example from Brady Cassidy that I don't know. It was like one of the recent, relatively recent, considering it's February, posts. But you can see how human it is, how intro hook is on point, how everything is frictionless. It's an easygoing CTA. It doesn't feel like I'm selling you, even though Brady's selling. And you can see the response, like 56 comments, I'm interested. So let's imagine that 40 of those are your first users. Or even 10, it doesn't really matter. This is free to do, but you just gotta be careful about your messaging and how does it sound, because communities are not there for you to sell. Communities are there for you to bond, build relationships, and bring value ultimately. And so the copy needs to follow that. And this is one of the examples. And so if you're speaking like tactically, like this is one of the old school groups on Facebook, but right now you have Discord, Slack, it's like Signal. There's like plenty of communities everywhere, but you want to make sure that you're maximizing, and putting the maximum effort into all the things that this community gives you. And so the beauty of Facebook that I leveraged on and on with communities, you have this internal search filter where you can play with stuff. And so I can click on search specific terms for my business. I can also click on this arrow and Facebook will recommend related groups with similar audiences. And then this is like an example from Team Solo, from Ahrefs, who's been doing this Reddit routine of his. I think he's done like 4 or 5 variations, but you can see the copy. It's like just human and nice. And you can see the first message on the left, how many comments it got. And so if you do it like this, I feel you can get not only beta users, but you can also get feedback. You can also get some ideas. You can also meet some cool people, and it's free. Usually, some communities are paid, but most of them are kind of free. I feel like one of the most exciting tactics for me as a marketer are targeted placements. And that's another version of you renting a channel instead of building your own distribution network. And one of the best stories that I love and that attracted me to join lemlist back in 2018 when I sent a message to Guillaume is the thing he did back in the day, which is he got a free ticket to SaaStr by being a volunteer. And as a volunteer, not only did he didn't have to spend money on the ticket, but he also got a list of all the attendees. And so he prepared the campaign using lemlist key product differentiators like custom images, custom landing pages, personalization, all the spiel. Sent the campaign and ended up booking 44 meetings. And then after this finished, not only did he brought some users from these meetings, but he wrote a case study that he didn't publish on the lemlist blog because lemlist blog back then didn't have any authority, didn't have any traffic, didn't have any SEO, nothing. And so he wrote a case study and published it on a popular Medium publication. And so he was able to rent the audience from this Medium publication and brought users. And in the process, attracted me as saying like, hey, this guy believes in the same marketing as I do. Let me send him a message. And so this is the beauty of placements. And placements can be different. Like you have the example of MailChimp. Obviously, they did this not in a super early stage, but in the beginnings, somewhere in the beginnings of MailChimp, they sponsored a podcast. And this was the funny thing they did. Like this was the copy of the ad on the left. And you can see that the host of the podcast participated in the ad. So the ad itself wasn't like, hey, I don't know, like Vuk has an agency that helps, which people just, shut down because it sells. Sometimes it might bring you some attention, but not as cool as if you do something creatively. And you can see how they played really nicely, what kind of word of mouth then they generated on Twitter when Twitter was still alive. And, they were able to also measure this, like, because anytime somebody will type MailChimp, MailShrimp, or any grammarly incorrect names of the company, and even like the branded name MailChimp as well, they can see it in the Google Search Console how much traffic was coming. They can see it from the timelines after the podcast. Let's say that my ad runs on a podcast on a Tuesday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I can see the traffic because this is where most people will see and listen to this episode. So you can sponsor a podcast, you can sponsor a newsletter, you can go do guest posts, you can go to influencers on social. Like there's plenty of things you can do. You have another example, Dollar Shave Club, which is it's not exactly like a placement, but it is kind of like a hybrid version of it. And they did this in 2012, which is insane on its own. So they picked a place to go viral, which was YouTube, with this hilarious video. It's like a marketing classic. And the investment was 4.5K to make it. The perfect messaging, perfect entertainment content, like really, really good. But they didn't publish it because they didn't have a strong YouTube channel. They waited for their funding announcement, which was 1 million seed round. And TechCrunch published this, a couple of other websites published it. They positioned the video in these articles. And so they kind of connected the launch of the video with the funding announcement. And they also relaunched their new website at the same time. So this is like a full scale attack. And the media picked up on the news. Then it took 72 hours to achieve virality, and they got 12,000 customers in 48 hours. And by the way, I think their website broke down in the middle of this, so it stopped working because the huge amounts of traffic were coming, and they still managed to get these types of results. Okay, so now we finished with the launch phase. We know how to launch the product. We know how to bring the first users in. We know how to get some early feedback, confirm the product market fit. But how do we get to 1 million in ARR? This is a journey, a mountain I climbed a couple of times now in different companies and in different occasions and environment. And so I'm going to make it super, super tactical, and we're going to go through a bunch of tactics right now. And so without any further ado, let's just dig right into it. But and I'm going to open this chapter by saying something for marketing channels in general, which is like, this is me playing basketball a couple of years ago, and a photo somebody took. And basketball itself, to me, it brings $0, like nothing. I have to pay to play. It even rhymes. But Luka Doncic, he has 346 million reasons to keep the ball in his hands at all times. And this is just directly from the NBA. Who knows side revenue streams and all. And so the message I'm trying to convey is, with marketing channels, just because one channel is working for me, it doesn't necessarily mean it's working for you. The channels we're going to discuss today is going to be the website, content marketing, LinkedIn personal branding, integrations and partnerships, influencer marketing, and some networking effects. And there's going to be a lot of gym metaphors. Stick with me. I started going to the gym Don't even ask. So website optimization is like abs workout. It's like a part of every workout. And what I mean by that is, how many times have you optimized your website? And if it's not at least a couple of times per year, I think it's not ideal. And when I say optimize the website, it doesn't mean like change it from scratch and redesign it completely. It means optimizing the elements, measuring and seeing if they're producing results. But one of the things I like to see is this like go from X to Y, which speaks directly about the promised land for a user and kind of qualifies the audience right off the bat. And you can see the example from Ahrefs, and you can see the example from Justin Welsh. Everything you need to rank higher and get more traffic, go from undiscovered to growing and monetizing your LinkedIn account. This is something their audiences want, and something they're pushing right in the hero section. And then if you take a look at the hero section, what are some other interesting aspects of the website? Social proof. And you can see 3 different versions of social proof here. Like Ahrefs has this nice little counter. They have some logos. In Justin's case, because he's selling courses, and his expertise, there's like reviews from a bunch of students and like this like nice 5 stars. Some other components once you start scrolling, but you can also see like in the hero section different emotional triggers. What an ATS should be. I think this is Ashby. Then you have Design Joy, a design agency with a twist. HeyReach example. This is not exactly the hero section. It's a little bit below the hero section, but you can see like we didn't reinvent LinkedIn outreach, just scaled it up while scaling the cost down, which is the messaging that has emotional triggers for their targeting, for their target audiences. And so you want to connect with them, make it relatable, and build like kind of like a common ground. In general, from my experience, it's better to avoid any marketing images that don't really truly portray the product. Obviously, you can modify a couple of things just because you can't take a screenshot and just put it out. You have to highlight stuff. This is like a practical use cases that speak the language of their customers. And like I said, social proof has many forms. Notion has templates. Templates are created by their users. Lemlist, back in the day, when I was there, like we started doing this like lemlist of the week thing. And so social proof has many different forms in which you can play and leverage them, from content to a typical review. And then it goes like to these optimizations. And these are some things I documented when I was optimizing lemlist websites all the time, which is like you had like a call to action, which is start your 14-day free trial. And once I changed it to something like try it free, get started, it's free, I started getting more clicks. I started getting more free trial signups. So just by changing the buttons. Then another experiment was going from feature-oriented language to audience-related language. So when I say improve email deliverability, not a lot of people understand because it's too technical. But if I say keep your emails out of spam, it's more recognizable. Suddenly, my bounce rate decreases, the number of clicks, the number of signups increases, etc., etc. Then, like if under the buttons that are my call to action buttons, if I put no card required, if I put some star rankings under the CTA, conversions decrease still. And you have some also cool examples of copy. Like for example, in Miro's case, when they're like asking you for your email, they don't ask like put professional email. They made it a little bit more human, which is we recommend using your work email. It keeps work and life separate. It's cool. It's nice. It's original. When I was at listening to NFX Guild crew in Palo Alto years ago, they had this example when Facebook was still as big and there was no Instagram and no other platform. There was a button sign up, and then feeling lazy, you don't want to fill in the form, sign up with Lazebook. Of course, I'm feeling lazy when it comes to signups. I don't want to fill forms. And these are types of experiments that one quarter brought the highest and the best results, which was 25% more conversions. But then we have content. And so let me take you back to a lemlist example one more time. Like back when we were starting, like first year, like there was no organic traffic. I think we were around 250K ARR. It was Guillaume and me on the business side. I think we had Emma in customer success, and we had one part-time videographer back in the day. And so we needed to be very creative and disciplined, not just with content creation, but content distribution, because ultimately 49% of the work is creating content. It's very important. But when you have no distribution, 55% is actually promoting that content and making sure that the target audience and your ideal customers actually see it. And so initially we started with a bunch of articles on different types of topics, from cold email to LinkedIn to whatever is related to sales, really. And then it hit us like, hey, let's not do this anymore because it's not producing results. We're just pushing high amounts of content, and lemlist is not ideally, like, we didn't do ideal product placement in every single content unit. And so we started asking and talking between ourselves, like, okay, what's one piece of content where customers really want it? They are looking for this type of value. We can do something better than it already exists, and where we can position lemlist ideally as a solution to the problem. And surprise, surprise, it's called email templates. And so we started doing these actionable teardowns of successful cold email outreach strategies. And we were eating our own, food, and doing using our own tool. So we had a lot of inspiration, and plus, like, Guillaume had his agency before he started lemlist, when he was outsourcing outreach campaigns for his clients. I did outreach back when I was, at Shift. Nobody, when you Googled cold email template back in the day, nobody was pushing results out. It was just like a template and that's it. But our was like, there's a template, there's an image, there's how it works, there's proof, here are the results, here are the mistakes. Like, we were transparent about these things, and people appreciated that. And the beautiful thing is, it was so easy to position lemlist and sell it without actually selling it, because we were speaking about how we accomplish a 38% reply rate and how we did it with lemlist. And then you read it, oh, it's free to try, boom, click. And even if you don't create a free account and you end up using a competitor tool, that was fine by us. We were still building the authority and putting lemlist and our expertise in the back of your brain if you ever decided to switch. But the coolest thing about this is, this type of content was not only beneficial for like the obvious content marketing effort and acquisition, but it was also beneficial for retention, as our existing users are still going to benefit from them. And going back to distribution, now the question is, how do we distribute this? And one of the obvious things that we did was, like, we go to our community that already had like 2, 3, 4,000 users. We go to our newsletter, and we go to lemlist Gallery. Lemlist Gallery was in the product. These 3 channels were not enough, because we were selling to already like users who knew about us. Of course, we had some free trial users who were seeing this that we wanted to convert, and some of the community members who still haven't become lemlist users. But we needed additional channels, because we wanted to increase our reach and reach more people. And so one of the things that we did, we repurposed a bunch of content on Quora, Reddit, Growth Hackers Digest. You can see my Quora game back in the day. Then also, like, getting backlinks, networking, and engagement was also critical, not only for our domain reputation of the website, but also because in the Growth Hackers example, once I repurposed something, I needed likes. If I push something on Quora, I needed upvotes. And backlinks, obviously, referral traffic and everything that gets. And so my reasoning here is, one of the things I'm really proud of what I did back in the day is, like, I started joining pods and bored myself with the amount of activity in these pods. There were maybe 1 or 2 that were really great. Every other pod was, well, like that. There was no action. And so I started, okay, I can build my own pods. And so I started building these LinkedIn chat groups, where I took the active members from every pod, invited them to join my pod as well, which obviously they did, because they were chasing the same thing that I was. And so at some point, I had like 10 different LinkedIn group chats with a bunch of people in, and I decided to create a community that I called like a game of content, that at the end, before I gave it away to one of the users, had thousands of users, like thousands of members. Where you post something and you literally get, I don't know, like 50 upvotes in a span of 30 minutes. If you post something on LinkedIn, you get some engagement. And it was like a really nice thing. And more importantly, because I was the admin, it's like, when you're in high school, you organize a party and in your house, and everybody wants to talk to you. In this community, I was building relationships with a bunch of people who were pushing guest posts on websites I could never get a backlink from. Like this huge astronomically like high domain reputation metrics, and they were like putting lemlist links all over them, which was beautiful. And obviously I did some favors for them as well. And so it's a two-way street. We were also really active in other communities. This is one of the examples. You can see it's like in 2019. Ilya back then wasn't still a lemlist member. So this is how we kind of met, because we were grinding both on the same thing, just in two different companies. And then at some point we talked and he decided to join us. But you can see like all the comments where people were speaking about cold email, whether this is asking about the best tool for it, or like I don't have a high reply rate, how do I solve this? Like I was always there, Guillaume was always there, Ilya was later always there, Daria was always there. And so we were really active in communities and trying to bring value as much as we can. And one of the also things that we did as well was joining podcasts, webinars. And so these things kind of started building our word of mouth. We got some mentions on social and communities, we got some referrals, and things started to kick in. And then at some point, we had now more resources, more people to enrich our content, do guides, not only templates, do a bunch of things. And this is what we did in the meantime. Then our users, because they appreciated the fact that we were sharing all our templates, they suddenly, because initially it was a little bit scary to share a template, your competitor might steal it. But now users started sharing them. We also started doing like YouTube. Again, once we had more bandwidth and more resources and more time. And this is an example from one of my clients where, they had a situation where they had like a 5% drop in revenue, less demos were booked. They had this funnel that you have to go through a demo to become a client. They lost some of the rankings and traffic. And so what we did is, we got 5 to 10 relevant backlinks to this article, these money articles that are kind of driving people with purchase intent. I did a little bit of an audit. We added some missing keywords, reshaped the article structure, added more value, positioned the key benefits better, and you can see the results. And this is another example. Like, for example, this client of mine doesn't have like insane traffic, but they have enough traffic. And so if I do these types of optimizations to content, I can bring some short-term results and build credibility under my name and my agency as well. And so this is the way you can think about it. Like if my client or the company I started working has some traffic, what are the articles that are generating most of the traffic and how are they contributing to the business? Another example of money article from HeyReach, you can see, instead of just doing HeyReach alternatives, I want to do every competitor and I want to do a review. And then I want to group all the keywords. So it's not just alternatives, it's everything. It's Dripify review, Dripify alternatives, Dripify competitors, Dripify feature X, Dripify feature Y, etc., etc. I want to give Dripify their flowers. They're excellent at 1, 2, 3. And especially if HeyReach doesn't have, for example, 2 or 3, I don't want these users using HeyReach. I want them to use Dripify because it's like a better solution. But the disadvantages of Dripify and that are at the same time advantages of HeyReach, I want to position these. And this article ranked in top 10 very, very fast, started generating traffic. They have personal brand, like LinkedIn. How many LinkedIn posts do you typically do per week, per quarter, per year? And so if the number is not high, probably it's not enough. And I'm not a huge advocate for posting every single day. I don't do this for myself because I feel like there's at some point, if you don't have something to say that brings value or that's like an authentic story, you don't have to post every day. You can post, whatever feels right. I try to do around 3 posts a week in general. But I look at LinkedIn like the gym. I promised gym metaphors, right? And so I enjoy working on my chest and arms, but I hate working on my legs. I absolutely loathe exercises for legs. And so LinkedIn is the same. Like everybody wants to ship cool posts, everybody wants to increase reach, have viral results, etc., get leads. But rarely does the other side of LinkedIn, like connecting with people, commenting, sending messages. This is not as popular as the former category. And in LinkedIn world, like posting on LinkedIn and building authority, I think there are 3 types of posts. One of these are these ones that bring you authority, where you speak about stuff where you have evidence, where you have proof, where you have results. Like me, for example, recording this video, I've done this. And so it's comfortable for me to speak about it. Nobody can judge me. Nobody can say it didn't happen because it happened. And so it's how I did something versus how you should, where I'm giving you motivation and everything. I very much prefer how I post rather than how you. And Dina and Kyle are two phenomenal people. I highly recommend to follow on LinkedIn if you're already, if you're not following them already. And so with these posts, you bring actionable value, you have evidence, and you make it relatable and authentic. And these are the posts that bring you best out of the both worlds. They bring you reach, higher reach, and they also bring you occasional leads. And so this is, for example, two of my posts and two leads that came through these. Then you have like a LinkedIn lead gen posts where you're specifically focused on getting leads from them. Obviously, if you can get higher reach, the better, but sometimes it won't be as high, but it will still bring leads. It's like depending on the type of a post that you do. With these posts, you want to grab attention. You also want to have evidence because, again, credibility matters. And you want to have a clear CTA. Like, what do I do once I read these posts? Do I sign up for your newsletter? Do I leave a comment and then you send me a link? These are my lead gen posts for my agency and everything. And so you can see, even though like I don't have a huge LinkedIn profile, I'm closing in on 10K followers as we speak, but you can see with even results such as these ones, I still get leads from it. And this is the beautiful thing about LinkedIn. Like you don't have to have a huge profile. You just gotta have good content and be persistent, persevere, and it will get you results. The third kind of bucket is like, let's say random, which is authentic stories like that you can tell about your career, about your life, about whatever is that you feel like you should speak about. And these are the posts that don't bring leads in 99.99% of cases, at least for me, but they're getting you higher reach and you have better chances to go viral with them. Try to have something that's true. It's not only authentic and a unique story, but it's true. It actually happened, and you're not like doing clickbaity stuff and some weird optimizations. The boring part of LinkedIn is, for example, DMing. And so some of the things that I use whenever I'm chasing clients is like, if you follow me, if you view my profile, if you send my connection request, which is something you can see in LinkedIn Sales Navigator fully, I can then qualify you and see whether you are my ideal client or not. And if you are, and if you've done 1 and 2, then I will DM you, or I will connect with you and then DM you. But I won't pitch you. I'll just start the conversation. I won't sell. I'll try to figure out a way to help and build my authority, because it's likely that we don't know each other, and then I'll pitch later. And here are the 2 examples. On the left, it's a lead where I booked a demo. And then on the right, it's like a normal conversation between 2 people in growth. I didn't book a demo, but I met a cool person potentially, and we might end up doing something later in the future. Engaging on other people's posts, this is something I can do better, and I don't feel that comfortable giving you advice, but I've seen other people nail this. And so what they did is, you find relevant experts in your space who drive engagement. You find users and prospects on LinkedIn who are active, and you leave well thought out comments on their posts. And you can create custom feeds as well. Like you can create a custom feed where you just see the posts of the people you want to comment on. I'll leave a link in the description just to show you this hack. Integrations, partnership, affiliates. Quick message here is like, tomorrow you might be an all-in-one product, but today you're a specialist in 1 or 2 use cases. So a company that might be your competitor in 2 years can be a partner before that actually happens. When you're doing an integration, you want to consider what are the tools my users need? How can I make my product more sticky? Like if the sales process has 1, 2, 3, 4 aspects and my product is covering number 1, if I blend into the full sales cycle of this company, I make my product more sticky. I can also do some fun webinars, like rent their distribution network. Like my partner can promote my product in front of their users, and I can do the same for them. And so I feel integrations are a massive channel. Like for example, in HR, it's seriously unexploited if you ask me. B2B influencers, this is another way of really placements. And Alex Hormozy did a wonderful video where he shared all the tactics literally that I've used in a couple of cases in the past. So I feel like there's no need to make this video longer. You can just go and check it out. But the whole point is find the right influencer, send your pitch, negotiate the deal, and make the content count. And think about it from the perspective of make influencer as a service moment. So don't do just one-off deal. Like create a situation where you're working with influencers for longer periods of time. Like for example, you might find an influencer who's a micro influencer that needs a little bit of help building a better distribution. And so you can showcase their content in your community and in your newsletter and on your blog, but they can showcase your product on TikTok, LinkedIn, or whatever it is that you want to showcase. So there's like more than just paying an influencer. You can help each other out on this road. You can give them like an access to templates. I know an example from a person who bought tickets to sporting games and concerts just to get a meeting with the influencer and then do some cool stuff with them. You just got to make sure that you found that you find the right influencer, the one that's believes in the same things and can speak well, and that also has like relevant audience attached to their profile. The last tactic I want to talk about and give you an example, like if you can make your if your product is ideal for networking effects, this means that you make users your growth engine because they're inviting their teammates, they're inviting their friends, they're inviting their colleagues, whatever the case may be. And so Loom is a perfect example. So I firmly believe I was one of the first users of Loom. I started using it really, really early. And you would record something, and this is the way from the moment I started using Loom till this day, I send Loom when I'm giving feedback, when I'm giving a proposal to a client or whatever I'm trying to do. And so in the early days, the way it went worked, probably it's still the same case. User records a new Loom, you send it to somebody, and then they have this button, get Loom for free. And so this is a wonderful way to get more users. And I feel like Loom got, as I recall, like around 200K free users just from this because they were measuring and they converted a certain percentage of it. Figure out ways how can your product, like if like Slack, once I create a Slack account, it's free for 90 days or something like that. And then I invite, because I can't use Slack on my own, I got to talk to other people, make it easy. Like I can import users from my Google Drive. Boom, the entire company imported in a second. I can add multiple emails and send invites easily. There's like a template already written. Like think about things that can be like a cool networking effect, a powered by button. Like if somebody launches a landing page through my website builder, like a free version of it, maybe I have a button somewhere that just says, hey, you want to launch the same type of website? Click. This is the way these networking effects kind of work. And so once you've done this, now you've picked your priority channels, and your priority channels are the ones where you have to pick like usually 2 or 3 at most because you have limited scarce resources. But you got to be smart in picking them in terms of the audience size that's on this channel and the ROI that brings to your business, like how fast and et cetera, depending on your targets. Like what's next? I feel like you got to have this what we'll label as like play to win system. So my goal is to increase revenue from 0 to 1, or from, I don't know, like 0.1 to 1, because you've done your launch by the end of the year. And so I want to break this down. So if I can't influence the revenue directly, I got to do something that influences another number that influences ultimately the revenue. And so to do this, I got to forecast and bring 1,000 users on a free plan because I'm doing a freemium. And to be able to bring 1,000 users, now I'm selecting my priority channels. Like, for example, somebody has to launch on Product Hunt, like, for example, Vuk to launch on Product Hunt and get 500 users. And in like next 30 days or whatever, like there's always like a target and a deadline. You got to have those two. If you're not having like a target and a deadline, it's a wrong setup. Then another person is going to ship 5 to 10 relevant placements and get another 500 users. And X and Y are going to create 50 LinkedIn posts each, and they're going to bring 100. And so this is 1,100, but it doesn't really matter. Like the point is, this is the way you gotta pick your priority channels and have KPIs and be able to measure. Okay, this channel is working well, let's keep it. This channel isn't working, let's remove it. Then 100 users on a free plan. This doesn't mean any revenue. This means now I have qualified audience within my product. I gotta convert 15% of these because of my ACV or my ARPU to be able to hit this type of a revenue milestone. And so what I got to do, I got to launch the onboarding by April 2025 to help users experience whatever the wow moment is. Then I got to track the onboarding and feature activation because this is where I'm going to create and distribute assets that are going to help me have conversions because I have a self-serve model. And then finally, I got to keep churn under 15% because under my calculation, users, if they churn below, above 15%, I'm not going to hit my revenue. And so what are the things I need to do and who is going to execute these types of tasks to keep the churn under 15%? And so in my mind, this is how you pick your channels. This is how you prioritize, because you're not going to fight every single battle. You just need to fight the battles that will help you win the war. And finally, like the final note I wanted to give you is when it comes to hiring, you don't have to worry as much in the early days, in most cases, about bringing specialists, for example. Bring a generalist. Bring a marketing generalist in your growth department who's good at, for example, content creation, but can figure out content distribution, can figure out LinkedIn, can figure out onboarding, and learn on the fly. Generalists, ideally, it's an A+ generalist, but even if you don't have the money to pay the A+ generalist or you can't negotiate a deal, bringing a B-level generalist that has the potential to become an A-level generalist is still a very good idea. For content, like if you want to increase volume or like ship, for example, 20 articles a month, you don't have to bring like 4 or 5 full-time copywriters because the salary and everything is going to cost you more. Like bring in freelancers. You only need like a generalist that's a good content strategist in a way. So they know how to prepare briefs. They know SEO, they know content, they've written content themselves, and then they're going to create briefs. And instead of writing on their own, they're just going to go to the 5 freelancers that each is going to create 1 article a month. Not only are you going to save money in the process, but you will be able to elevate the content volume and output while your generalist is focused on just proofreading, publishing, and then distributing while the freelancers are creating, kind of keeping things optimal. And then finally, for you and your growth generalists, invest in mentors. Okay, we have this person who has done this, and your generalist or yourself are not experts in, for example, onboarding, how to create onboarding that produces good results. Go to the person that they did pay like a couple of $100 for like a mentorship call, and ask them questions. Let them give you actionable value how to do this. And for a low amount of money, you tap into a brain that has expertise and like a track record in this particular thing. And there are 3 things you want to identify on this journey and hit in terms of KPIs. Like you want to find your true product market fit. And a true product market fit means you're converting users and they stick using your product. Profitability point, this is depending on the product and the industry and everything. I'm kind of a sucker for profitability. I really like running things in a profitable way. So I control my own destiny. So this is depending on, the industry, how much you've raised and everything. It's not like a success metric. It's I would say a preference. But in number 3, 1 million in revenue, then you've done something amazing and I applaud you. That being said, we kind of completed our 1, 2, 3 punch from what it takes like to go from 0 to 1. But don't go and kill this video yet, because there are some cool let's say gifts I prepared, some free value that you can take that will help you like smoothen out your road to 1 million, starting with, if you want my systems that include project management files, meeting templates, specifically one-on-one templates, reports I use, employee evaluation templates, like everything really that as a leader of a department or a senior person in a marketing team, you need to execute fast, prioritize key channels, and track progress in an accurate and fair way, I can, give you everything I used. And so all you got to do is just send me a LinkedIn message, My profile URL is in the description, and this is completely free. There's no opt-in required. I'm not going to sell you anything. Like I'll literally just send you the link, and you can take these, modify them, enjoy them, and keep sharing them with other people. And if you need any strategic or operational help with acquisition, monetization, and retention, let me know, because I can help and be your kind of plug and play growth marketing asset. Of course, if you want to. I hope this video was valuable. I hope it was Wolverine to your Deadpool, giving you the tactics you can deploy on your journey to 1 million ARR. And good luck and maximum effort.
This is the only thing I know.